it's not an omniscient, omnipotent CIA that's playing everybody all the time. It's them riding the political forces of history that have their own current and momentum. Well, and bringing these,
I popped on really quick just because since you guys started talking about, immigration and how we're dealing with international affairs, there's a giant, huge elephant in the room that people don't ever talk about, which is the fact that our lovely representative republic allows us to have basically a shadow government called the CIA is the main thing I wanted to talk about. We can't really fix diplomacy on the front end and, present diplomacy to the world when we have our CIA doing the stuff that they do behind the scenes, like with drug trafficking and with funding people like the Taliban and stuff like that. I mean, what Counterpoints was talking about, he had a very good point. Like, let's make the conditions such that America is not the only option and the entire third world isn't clamoring to come here. How do we do that if the CIA is running all kinds of game behind the scenes that our represented government is either unaware of or can't do anything about?
Yeah, I'd actually like to address this because I don't think it's that big of a shift from their current capacity set, and it's actually really interesting that we kind of bumped into this conversation because I was literally talking to a former Canadian CIA agent like 20 minutes ago, or like an hour ago, I guess now. But the point is that like the CT's right in some respects, and then I think there's some historical examples that would be counter to this. Basically like Europe after World War II, Japan after World War II, South Korea after the Korean War would be examples where we've done nation building correctly. And what that was we didn't try to completely change the culture. We just changed the cultural parts that were nefarious or against us. And then we supported them like economically, militarily, all that kind of stuff while they got their feet under them. And in a way that was like long term. We are still in Germany. We are still in South Korea. We are still in Japan right now. So to answer that point, it's like, yeah, we suck at nation building in Afghanistan, but Afghanistan is goddamn. That's like one of the biggest challenges. I don't want to dodge, base mom real quick. So what I was saying is like, how do we do this? Oftentimes you can do this with like one of the things that I'm a big advocate for is called foreign internal defense. It's what our special forces do, where they train indigenous forces to be responsible for their own security. That's how you send in 30 guys and they train 10,000 in order to be an effective fighting force. And so that way, one of the reasons why we're taking in tons of Afghan refugees, the reasons why we take in tons of Central and South American, refugees or asylum seekers, is because we're partially responsible for fucking those places up. Whereas where you take a consultative approach, where you're saying like, I'm not running the show, I'm just helping you run your shit, that has a different level of moral responsibility. And I know I've been talking for a while, so I'll shut the fuck up. But
yeah, I don't know if that really addresses things like Fast and Furious or some of the drug running that we've caught the CIA doing in South and Central America. I mean, it's like a lot of the time our elected government has one policy that they talk about and show the world, and that, you hear all the candidates debating about anytime we have an election. And then the CIA is doing things behind the scenes, like with the Bay of Pigs, like with Saddam Hussein, with Osama bin Laden. I mean, we're talking about the covert operations that you don't find out about until 20, 30, 50 years after the fact. So talking about diplomacy and talking about policy, to me, feels kind of futile when we have agencies, intelligence agencies, not just ours, but MI6, Mossad, everybody's got, their secret behind the scenes intelligence agencies who are running drugs, laundering money, setting up secret assets in foreign nations. So we can talk about training, people to defend their own country and things like that. But how do we take care of this behind the scenes, shadowy, what the people who are doing the real policy and making the real decisions?
Can I try and address that?
Sure.
What is the purpose of MI6, the CIA, and all these shadow organizations?
Well, there's their stated purpose and there's what they actually do. So again, it's a public policy and a public face on something where they say, well, look, every country needs to know what's going on. We all need intelligence. We have to find out, who's really running things in other countries. We need intelligence so we know if there's an imminent attack. It's a national security issue to have intelligence agencies. But what we always find is that they get caught doing things like Iran-Contra. They get caught doing things like Operation Paperclip. The list is so long now of things you can just go to Wikipedia and read about now. This isn't even top secret
but
stuff.
but you're saying it directly too. But she's saying it directly too. That's the poster they put outside on the front window. The real purpose of them is to do what? We need to keep our country on top, so we're going to just start messing everybody else up.
It's actually, it doesn't have anything to do, so the CIA does not necessarily have the best interest of the American people at heart. All of these agencies work together to benefit generally the global elite more than anything else. It's the CIA isn't doing anything for the people. They're doing for Klaus Schwab and those guys.
Can I address this though? Because here's the thing is we with a little bit of an expansion and definition, I think some of this stuff can dovetail really quickly into tangents that I don't like, but here's what I think we could agree on. Is that intelligence agencies predominantly in the Western world or whatever, they are not serving specific nation states. They're not saying this is our border. We only protect our border. We only care about our country, our nation, etc. What they do though, is they do enforce a certain level of Western capitalist hegemony. And I don't use that term with derision. I'm not criticizing this. I am the beneficiary of Western capitalist hegemony. This fucking microphone was probably, created by slave labor in fucking Malaysia or some shit that is enforced by Western capitalist hegemony. And so what I would say is that there's this internationalist scheme of intelligence agencies and military agencies and law enforcement agencies enforcing, global capital, as leftists would call it, to basically enforce international trade routes and all that kind of stuff. There is nefarious stuff. There is dirty stuff. There are people killing each other. There are people manipulating each other. But ultimately what ends up happening is, if you look at it on a global scale, is we do have secure access to energy. We do have secure access to food. We do have secure access to consumer goods. So we can malign the means through which we get these places, the banana wars being a famous early 20th century example, where we literally went to war on behalf of banana corporations to make sure that they were able to maintain their social power in Central America and export products to the United States. That seems like small potatoes or small bananas for a national government to be intervening on behalf of a business in a different country. But at the same time, as a result, you have these international logistic chains that are so powerful that we can't even fucking understand how powerful they are. And so that's where, for me, when you zoom in on the dirt of CIA had an assassination program in, Vietnam, CIA destabilized Latin America or whatever. We supported the Shah of Iran after, after they deposed a democratically elected fucking representative or some shit like that. A lot of these things, everybody in this room is ultimately the beneficiary of when they have secure access to material goods.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe that, because this whole entire, my oldest daughter's 20. We went to war in Afghanistan when she was a baby. I think she was 7 or 8 months old when that happened. And her whole entire lifetime, we've been over there doing what we've been doing. And I don't think I could argue that she or I are necessarily the beneficiaries of that, because there's no alternate history timeline we can look to see what would have happened had we not done all those things, had all those things not unfolded the way they did. And the CIA was completely involved in manipulating all of that. To even homeschooling my kids now who are 9 and 12, to try to explain to them what the hell we were doing in Afghanistan, telling them about the Big 9 event, right? And then why the F we went to Afghanistan and then to Iraq, and the whole WMDs thing, and Saddam Hussein being our guy. Try teaching them actual history. It's really convoluted. It's really hard to explain to them. And I think I'd have a really hard time explaining to them that, no, but it was for your own good, kids. We should be thankful for this.
Oh, that doesn't mean it's not blood-soaked and terrible. And Sansel, I know you came on, but I have an opportunity to do my favorite like history rant.
Yeah, you're fine.
So okay, cool. So basically, this is the history, and if people in chat like want to Google a couple of things, I would actually appreciate it if they did. We support this. Could actually all be traced back to Iran. We supported a monarchy after they tried to nationalize their oil. We took this over from the British, who originally were imposing their will on the country, and then we took it over as a geopolitical interest to stabilize oil supply through the 60s and 70s. So we supported the Shah into the 70s, and he was increasingly unpopular and used increasingly authoritarian means in order to maintain power, including imprisoning people, torturing them, all that kind of stuff. And we didn't really care because we wanted access to oil. Oil is important. So, in 1979, the Iran-Iraq war kicks off because Iran undergoes a originally democratic revolution. We can't stop it. A theocracy emerges from that. And Saddam Hussein tries to capitalize on the chaos in order to seize oil fields. And it starts getting his shit pushed in. He just gets his ass kicked. So he's starting to lose the war. And there's something called the Riegel Report. Riegle. And what this is the United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom, in order to make sure that Iraq didn't lose the war, because they're on the front doorstep of Saudi Arabia, which is the second largest producer of petroleum on the planet, we sell Iraq dual-use chemicals and like botulism and anthrax and VX and like all this crap. So we don't sell them the finished WMDs, but we sell them all of the stuff that can be used to manufacture WMDs. And the CIA actually does consult on target placement for these weapons in order to make sure that they're used effectively. This results in Iranians being killed in some of the most horrific ways that you can possibly imagine. So Iraq is actually able to prevail, but then because Iraq finds out, we were doing Iran-Contra at the same time, where we were selling weapons to Iran in order to fund narco guerrillas in South America. Since Saddam finds out that we're playing both sides, he's like, fuck you, United States. Even though you gave me a bunch of money, you also fought against me simultaneously, so fuck all of y'all. I'm going to go after Kuwait, I'm going to go after Saudi Arabia, and I'm going to go after Israel, because fuck all y'all motherfuckers, you're pieces of shit. He's not our boy anymore. He bit the hand that fed, right? So we have a problem, because he's got WMDs now, and he invades Kuwait. During Kuwait, there's two things that Osama bin Laden cited as his motivations for terrorism. One was we covered for Israel when they invaded Lebanon, and Christian militias in Lebanon under Israeli surveillance slaughtered 3,000 Muslim civilians, and we covered the Israeli withdrawal. So through complicity with Israel, we are the bad guys for overseeing the slaughter of 3,000 Muslims. And this is the Phalanges was the Christian militia that slaughtered people in Lebanon. Then the second reason why Osama bin Laden cited that he hated us was because Saudi Arabia called on us to defend the oil fields instead of the Mujahideen. So basically, it was a geopolitical betrayal of the Muslim people to have a bunch of degenerate, Western, evil, douchebags on Saudi soil defending Saudi territory. And those are the two reasons, or those are two of the reasons that he cited for doing 9/11. And so what I would say is then you get into the war on terror, and I could talk for another fucking half hour, but I'm not going to. The point is that these things are complex, but it's not an omniscient, omnipotent CIA that's playing everybody all the time. It's them riding the political forces of history that have their own current and momentum. And I'll shut up for now.